to start us off this morning, before I get going into the message, I want to say thank you to all of the men in the room, all of the fathers. I want to tell you that I'm proud of you, that I believe in you, that I know that life situations, I know that circumstances will tell you that you're not doing a good job. I know the negative self-talk of being a man and feeling like I'm constantly failing, looking at my life and just wondering what kind of a mess have I made with myself. I've heard the sting of the voice I heard the stink in my wife's voice when she tells me you're just not doing a good enough job. And at times she is right. I'm not. And I want to say to you as men, I understand that pressure and I understand that pain. But I also want to say to you that I'm for you and I'm with you, that I love you, that I'm proud of you, that no, you're not who you want to be, but you are not who you used to be. And God isn't done with you yet. And I want to say to you as men, I've got your back. Brothers, I've got your back. For real. We're in this thing together. And I want you to leave this place feeling like you were honored today. That I see you. God sees you. He sees you working that job you wish you could quit. He sees you getting up day in and day out and staying steady, paying your bills, doing your best for some of you to follow God and establish a legacy of faith in your family. And I want you to know that I see it. Being here today, you could have done anything else, but you're here. And I'm proud of you, man. I am. And I don't know if you're like me, but the thing that I miss the most is not having my dad say that to me. I'm proud of you, man. Brothers, I mean, I'm proud of you. And I love you. And I love you because I know what it's like to be a man. And I know how hard it can be. I know the difficulty. I know the burden, and I know the blessing. And I love you, and I'm for you. And I'm proud of you. Okay? I'm proud of you. As men, I'm proud of you. Jason, I'm proud of you. I don't care how many times you fall down. I'm proud of you because you got back up. I'm proud of you, brother. I'm proud of you as men because I know it's hard. I know that personally, not because I read it in a book. As a matter of fact, one of the hardest seasons of my life was shortly after my wife and I got married. Now, some of you will know my story in that as a young man, I made some bad decisions and I found myself incarcerated for 7.5 years for a good chunk of time. I spent my 20s in a place you shouldn't spend your 20s. And shortly after I came home, my wife got pregnant and man, that was a challenge I wasn't ready for. I had this idea of what life would be like as a married man and how great things would be, and I would always love her, and I would always be happy and satisfied. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And that's what I thought. She was like, And so that was a whole challenge too. But that wasn't the big challenge. The big challenge, in all seriousness, was she was pregnant. And it was tough. I think I was working 4 jobs. I was scrapping copper. I was digging for copper. I was a construction guy, so I would pick up all the copper at the end of the job site just to make ends meet. And things were really tough for us, and we were in the middle of an intense fight, and a couple invited us to this Christian concert, to this Christian conference, and we agreed to go, and I'll never forget, we were on the corner of Green Hill Road, and we were at the stoplight, and I remember being in the car and saying to God, in my heart, I didn't say it out loud, I said, God, I can't do it. I can't do it. This is not what I thought it would be. God, I quit. If this is what it's like, then God, I'm sorry. I'm no better than my dad. I'm sorry, I quit. And some of you men, I'm saying this and I'm being honest and transparent with you because you walked into this room. You might not have said it with your words, but you've been living that way with your behavior. I'm telling you, man, you can't quit. You can't quit. But I said to God, God, I quit. I can't do it. I get to the conference. I sit in the room. It's a room of about 500 people in the room. This is a true story. The guy gets done preaching. He steps out on the stage. In this room of 500 people, he looks at me and he says, you. And I looked and I said, me? He said, yeah, you. Stand up. And I kind of looked and he said, yes, you, sir, in the burgundy shirt, stand up, please. I stood up. He looked at me and said, sir, when I walked in here, I got a picture of you. And in the picture I saw you had these golden boxing gloves on, but they weren't laced. And I want to tell you, you can't quit. You got to stay in the fight. And then he said, I saw a picture. He said, you, young man, he says, you are like Atlas. You know who Atlas is? Atlas is the man with the world on his shoulders. He says, you're like Atlas, and there are worlds of people depending on you. And I'm saying to you, you can't quit. If you quit, their world will crumble. And I'm saying to you today, man, you can't quit. You can't quit. And do you know why you can't quit? Because right now in our community, there are 39% of the women who are going to have babies that aren't going to have fathers. Man, you can't quit. You can't quit. I need you to be courageous, and you can't quit. I need you to be courageous, and you can't quit. Why? Not only because 39% of our children will have absentee fathers, but listen to this. Over 50 women, just 50, over 50, will report to being sexually assaulted by a man. Men, I need you to be courageous. I need you to stand for honor and integrity and what's right and what's wholesome and to be caring and loving and nurture. Men, I need you to stand up. The world needs you to not quit and to be courageous. I need you to be courageous. You can't quit. I'm going to tell you why you can't quit. Because 22% of our children won't graduate high school in Waterloo. 22% of them will not graduate high school in Waterloo. That's over 200 children who will not walk across the stage because the majority of them live in homes without men there spurring them on. Men, if you came here looking for me to pat you on your back and to just tell you how awesome you are, I'm here to challenge you. I'll tell you why. My mentor told me, he said, Kovadis, if you call a man to play a man's game, men will show up, but boys will run. And so today I want to give a clarion call to the men in the room. I want to call you to fight. I want to call you to stand. I want to call you to be courageous, to live with conviction. I want to call you to be consistent. I want to tell you, you can't quit because today, this Sunday morning, there are 14 million more women in church than there are men, and we're called to lead our families spiritually. Men, you can't quit. You can't quit. I need you to be courageous. Why? Because all it requires for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. All it requires for evil to prevail in society is for good men, God's men, harnessed, come under, submitted to, eyes focused, hearts open, hands ready. Men, if those men don't show up, our cities will continue to fall. Men, I need you to stand up. Be courageous and not quit. I need you to not quit. I need you to stay steady and not quit. Why? Because God designed you to be a man. You were made for this. Your broad shoulders were built to carry the world. Your thick thighs were made to stand up under all that God would put on you. You can't, for the sake of our communities, quit. In light of the injustices in society, you can't quit. In the Bible days, there was a man by the name of King David, one of Israel's greatest kings and most valiant warriors. He stood in front of a group of men who were experiencing like injustices, and he gave a clarion call to be courageous. He challenged them to live with conviction. In 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 12, David stands before a group of men like I'm standing before you today. And here's what David said. David said to those men, as I'm saying to you, even Dax, at the age of 14, I'm saying you can't quit. You be courageous. And David says to the men, be courageous. He says, play the man. Play the man. Why? For our people. Why? For the cities of our God. And we'll let God do what God will do. We'll trust the results in God's hands. Men, I'm saying be courageous. The reason David says it's because in the face of adversity, in the face of unknown challenges, in the face of all the tumultuous seas of tossing back and forth with job and family and hobbies and all the things that come in life, it's easy to choose cowardice over being courageous. It's easy to choose passivity over being passionate. It's easy to quit and not fight. And I'm saying, man, be courageous. You can't quit. You can't quit. The world needs you. God needs you to be steadfast, to stand sturdy. When everything else says, let go, pack up, quit, and run, God says, stay. Stand your ground. Don't you move. Don't you give the devil 1 inch. Don't you give 1 inch in honor, integrity, in kindness, in compassion, in truth, in holiness, in righteousness, in justice, in mercy. God says, don't you give up 1 square inch. You hold your square. You don't quit. It's what you were made to do. I'm convinced we are raising weak men, especially in the church. We don't call men to arms. We let them sit back and stand by. And I'm telling you, in this church, we will raise up an army by God's grace of 1,000 men who will storm the gates of hell and say, not on our watch. Not on our watch. I tell you, if you're a man in this room, you won't feel comfortable here if you're looking for comfort. If you're looking to die and to live for something greater than yourself, then welcome to the army. Then welcome to the army. You can't quit. There's too much at stake. There's too much that's up for grabs. We can't. We have to make the decision to be courageous and not quit. So how do we do it? The good news is the Bible, I believe, gives us some steps, some actions that we can take, some movements that we can make toward being courageous and not quitting. I believe there's 5 of them outlined to us in the Word. To get there, we're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 16. We're going to read verse 13. There's a man by the name of Paul who's writing to a church. And in the middle of his letter to this church, he pivots and he almost is going, this is all general stuff for the church. And then he hones in on a group of people. And the reason he does that, I believe, is because what you need to know is that if a child starts coming to church, there's a 3% chance that the rest of the family will come. These are real stats. That if a child starts attending church, there's a 3% chance that the rest of the family will join. At the end of first service, a mother came up to me and said, I want you to meet my daughter, Chloe. I said, hi, Chloe, how are you doing? Her mother said, today in Kid City at the end of service, Miss Angela, that would be my wife, cue music, bow, chicka, wow, wow. Miss Angela led the children in a prayer. And in the prayer, Chloe raised her hand and said, I want to give my life to Jesus. Can we celebrate that with Chloe, y'all? Come on, somebody. God's doing amazing things in Kid City. Whenever I don't preach on Sunday morning, I always take one of the services and serve in there. Because God's doing an amazing thing amongst our children. But the second stat is important. This is why you can't quit, because if a mother comes, if a woman begins to come to church, there's a 17% chance that the rest of the family will join. That's a real stat. 17% chance that the rest of the family will come if the mother begins to attend. But if the father, if the man of the home begins to attend church, there's a 93% chance that the rest of the family will join. Come on, somebody. Let's give a hand clap to that. As a matter of fact, just at the end of first service, I went outside, and one of our officers, every Sunday, we hire a Waterloo Police Department officer to attend our services for some added security, plus our own security team. And I imagine he's been coming for almost a year now. And his family goes to church. They go to church. And just today, he said, Pastor Q, I saw him in service, and I went, oh man, I saw you in service today. He said, yeah. He said, my wife and my family came with me for the first time. Yeah, I know. Yeah, praise God for that. He said, I've been asking them to come for a while now. I've been saying, hey, you guys got to come to this church with me. And I've been on them. And then finally they said, for Father's Day, what do you want? Come on, somebody. He said, I want y'all to come to church with me. Come on, Jesus. I said, brother, you are a man's man. You can't hear me out there. You're still out there, but we celebrate you, brother. Come on, come on. Wow. Man, what I found in my life, Ladies, I know you're beautiful, you're honorable, you're intelligent, you're smart, you're godly, you're all that in a bag of chips, okay? I said that already. Now let me get to the brothers. Brothers, your women need you to lead them. Kindly, don't overlord them, don't push them around, don't dominate them. You're not, railroading them, but they need you to lead. And if you will lead with tenderness, they will respond to you. And I'm just saying to you as men, I'm just telling you, I can see a few other faces of men I've watched say, Q, I'm setting my foot down, I'm going to attend, I'm going to lovingly invite my family. And over time, boy, they've come. Some of you, I know who you are in the room. And so just to you guys, I want to say thank you for that. Well, here's what Paul says about men and for men and to you as men and how you can be courageous and not quit. In 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13, Paul says this, be watchful. Stand firm in the faith. And then then he pivots and he says, act like men. Just act like men and be strong. Just act like men and be strong. And so I want to tell you, men, how do we do that? How do we act like men? How do we be courageous and not quit? Well, the first thing I think we got to do, Paul says it, he says you got to be watchful. He says, be watchful men. Write this down on the back of your sermon guide if you're taking notes. I want to encourage you to do that. Paul says, be watchful. In other words, be aware of what's happening in your heart, in your family, and in your community. Be aware. Have a knowledge of what's taking place in your own heart. Know the things that tempt you. Know the things that send you over the edge. Watch for what's going on in your heart. Why? Because we all live out of the health and the wealth of our own souls. It's hard to give what we don't possess. And so we want to watch and guard our hearts. It's summer break now, and my son and I were sitting together 2 nights ago on the couch. He's 10 years old, and I said, Bubba, how you doing, buddy? He said, good. I said, are you enjoying your summer? He said, yeah. I said, buddy, how do you think your relationship with the Lord's been so far this summer? How do you think your walk with the Lord is? I said, let me ask you this way. If red is not doing good, if red's it's pretty bad, yellow is, it's okay, and then green is going pretty good, son, how would you describe your relationship with the Lord right now? He's 10 years old, mind you. He said, well, Dad, I think it's yellow. I think it's yellow. I said, okay. He said, how about you, Dad? I said, well, I would probably say my relationship right now is probably yellow-green, son. He said, yellow-green? Not green? Dad, you know everything. You know all of the Bible. There's not even a Bible verse you don't know. And I said, well, son, it's not important that I know the Bible. It's important that I live it. I said, and there's some things right now in Daddy's life that I need to get better at. And then I said, son, how do you think you can take that yellow and turn it into a green? And he said, I probably need to be more consistent at doing my devotion in the morning. I said, yeah, that's true. He said, I should probably listen to more worship music too. I went, okay. I said, how about serving too? He went, yeah, I should probably serve more. I said, go do them dishes then, boy. You know what I'm saying? So, I set him up for that. He didn't see it coming. Oh, 1, 2, boom, boom. And so hey, I need to watch what's happening in my family. Men, you got to watch what's going on with your wives. If they're having a bad day, hey, babe, what's going on? How can I help you? How can I serve you? Dads, with your children, the same thing. Those of you who aren't married, do it with your friends or your roommates. Do it with your siblings. Be aware of what's happening in the world around you. Number 2, Paul didn't just say be watchful. Paul says stand firm in the faith. Paul says stand firm in the faith. Here's what I want you to get, is that if we will stand firm in the faith, then future generations will inherit our legacy. They will inherit a legacy if we will stand firm in the faith. And some of you, like me, you're first-generation Christians. You're really the first person, men in the family, who've taken a real strong step to follow Jesus. And like you, I get how hard that can be. It's like, pray out loud. I'm not really comfortable. Read my Bible. I don't really know where to start. And I understand that. And so your faith is kind of like wet cement. It takes a little time for it to get formed up and to really set. So you want to get it set in the right position, because once it sets, it kind of sets. And while that's true on one side, the other side of it is that I need you men to determine, what do you stand for? What are you about? If I were to cut you, what will you bleed? Will it be integrity? Will it be sacrifice? If I cut you right now and said, show me your weight in gold, and I cut you, am I going to see a man of honor? Am I going to see a Jesus man? Am I going to see a man who sacrifices for his family? Am I going to see a man who lives on his knees so he can stand before anything? If I were to push you to your limit, what do you stand on? Do you know more about LeBron's stats than you do the Bible? What do you stand for? What is your life made up of? What kind of man have you become? I'm asking you as men, if we will be courageous and not quit, then we are going to have to stand on the timeless truths of God's word. We're going to have to get our priorities set in order. Listen to me. Men, listen. If it is true, just if it's true that God is real, and that God is kind, and that God is merciful, and God is compassionate, and that God brought that woman into your life, and God gave you your children, if it's true. I mean, we're going to act like eternity doesn't matter? I'm just saying if, just for a moment, go, yep, it is true. God is real, heaven is real, hell is real, and I'm going one of those places, and so is every person that carries my last name. You're telling me you're not going to stand for truth? You're telling me you're not going to sacrifice at 9:15 to get up to get them here? You're telling me you ain't going to drop a knee? You're not going to swallow your pride? Can I talk to my brothers in the room? If it's true, I need you to man up, baby. I need you to stand for something. Because if you don't stand, then hundreds will fall. If you don't stand, then hundreds will fall. And I need you to be courageous and not quit. I need you to act like heaven and hell really is in the balance, because it really is. And I'm calling men to play a man's game today. And I'm calling men to play unapologetically. I'm calling men to play a man's game today. And let me tell you something. If you're in this room today, then you're already in the game. So now we got to go and get our brothers who aren't in here and tell them it's time to man up. It's time to man up. It's time to get with it. It's time to get about the business. Childish games are over. Paul said, when I was a child, I behaved like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. It's time to man up. And so if we're going to do this, we're going to have to stand firm in our faith. We're going to have to get our priorities in order. And here it is. God, family, responsibilities, and then hobbies. Not hobbies, then God. Not family, then God. Not responsibilities, then God. If your work won't give you Sundays off, it's time to talk to the manager. And let me see how much they value you. I had a woman, pregnant, come to me and say, Pastor Q, a few weeks ago in church, I realized that my priorities were out of order. I quit my job and got another one because they wouldn't give me Sundays off. Now, some of you can't take Sundays off. You just can't. But I'm going to beg to wonder that if that's not the problem for most of us. And what I'm saying to you, I'm not trying to get you in this building. I'm trying to get your family into heaven. I got one amen back there. I'm trying to get your family into heaven. So I need you to do this. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to act like men. I need you to, that's what Paul said. He says, I need you to take action. I need you to act like men. Listen to me. If we will push past fear and passivity, we have to push past fear and passivity to follow the Lord, to lead our families, and to serve our communities. We have to push past it. We've got to move past fear. I love what Joshua says in Joshua chapter 24. Here's what Joshua says in verse 15. He says this, choose this day whom you will serve. Then he says, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my house, he says, we will serve the Lord. And so lastly, I need you men to be strong. Number 4, I need you to be strong. And here's what I mean by that. The strength you need, God will supply. I'm not asking you to figure it out on your own. Guys, we can't. Don't do that. I'm asking you to join with me and say, God, help me be the man you created me to be. The strength you need, God will supply. Number 5, we've got to do it in love. Love has got to be our motor. Love has got to be our motive. And love has got to be our motivation. It's got to be our motivation. In closing, I need you men to do 3 things. I'm going to have the worship team come on up. Come on up, worship team. Come on up. I say worship team come up. Ryan Shattuck, who's on our facilities team and is leading guitar, he sets down the baby that belongs to his neighbor. That's manhood. I say men come up, and he sets down his neighbor's baby to come up. I want to ask the men to stand up. If you're a man and you're able and you're willing, please stand with me. If you're able and you're willing, I don't want you to feel forced, but if you're able and you're willing, I want you to stand with me, and I'm asking you to do 3 things. 1, I'm asking you men to be courageous. I'm asking you to be courageous. I'm asking you to take courage when everything else says give up and give in. This brother back here is holding a baby. That takes courage to do it, to not run. But to stay in the game and to be a father, that takes courage. To go to work day in and day out. It takes courage to be wrung out at the end of the night and have mama say, can we talk? And go, woman, I'm tired. But it takes courage to kill, to die to yourself is what I'm trying to say, in order to serve the woman who you're laying next to. It takes courage to raise a family. We say raising a family is settling down. No, it ain't. It's manning up. So I need you men to be courageous. Number 2, I need you men to live with conviction. We've got to live with some conviction. I mean, we gotta have some grit. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be some conviction, some iron in our spirit. Unbendable, unbreakable, unmovable, not one square. I'm not giving the devil 1 square inch in the Marshall family. Not 1 square inch. My son will love God. My daughter will love God. My grandsons will love God. My great-grandchildren will love God. My great-great-grandchildren will love God. And they'll have on their wall a family portrait of Paul Q loving God until my last breath is gone. I'm not giving the devil 1 square inch. I'm convicted. I'm living with conviction. And number 3, I need us to be consistent. This is the big one. And we're going to fall and get back up. We're going to read the Bible and stop, and that's okay. Consistency isn't doing it without ceasing. Consistency is continuing to do it even when you fall down. So I'm going to ask every man as we close out our time. If you're willing, I want to make 3 statements. And I want to ask you to join me in those statements. They're I will stand statements, and I'm making them before God. And I want God to remind me of this day, June 17th. When I feel like quitting, I want God to say, son, I remember what you said, and I'm going to help you do it. Son, I'm going to help you do it. And so I'm going to ask you, if you're going to join me, I'm going to ask you to put 1 hand on your heart and 1 hand toward the heaven. 1 hand on your heart, 1 hand toward the heaven. All the men in the room, let's do this. No matter how old you are. 1 hand on your heart, 1 hand toward the heaven. Every head bowed, every eye closed. Men, if you'll stand with me, I want you to repeat after me. I want you to stand with me and say these words. I will stand as a man of courage. So I want you to say it like you mean it. I will stand as a man of courage. I will stand as a man of conviction. I want you to shout it so loud that you scare hell and that heaven hears your voice. I will be a man. There you go. I will be a man. Who will stand with conviction. I will be a man. Who will stand with courage. I will be a man who will be consistent. And I will be a man who lives, who loves, who leads like Christ. So help me, God. Father, I want to ask you, Father, I want to ask you for all these men. God, would you help us to keep our word? Our word is our bond. Ladies, stand with us now. I want the ladies to stand with us now. Ladies, look at the men next to you. Those are your men. These are your men. These are the men God has given you, and we will stand if you will help us. Father, now I pray that you will help us build our lives on the rock of Jesus. Father, we stand with our lives as an altar before you. Not one square inch, not one square inch we'll give up. Not one square inch we'll give up. We'll be courageous and we won't quit.